your teachers will be equipped enough to ensure that the students are well prepared to engage?
Thank you. Since schools closed, I can assure you that we have been having, I have been having my teachers trained all the time on COVID-19 and the preparedness. Of course, at one time, we are looking at a time when the government will open schools. So my teachers are well trained on COVID-19. They are well trained on the CBL. They are trained on how to handle anything that may arise in the school. So for the schools that are, this is business, we are competing with the other schools and all that. The part here that one needs to know is you put your best foot forward. Train the teachers, train the parents, create awareness, let the parents know that their children are safe in school, and this can be handled by any teacher because we have invested heavily when it comes to the training of teachers.
How long have you been teaching?
Over 20 years.
Did you begin in a government institution?
Yeah, I started in a public school.
How long did you teach in the public school?
I believe 7 years.
What is the difference between then and now?
When I started teaching, I think I started teaching around 1989 there. And I was posted to various schools in the country. And I had an experience with the children. Up to around 1995 there, when I left the government sector. In the public school, while it is in the public domain, the number of children there is big, especially now that we have free education. And therefore, controlling those children in public school at times becomes a challenge, and more so during this time. And so you find the public schools, the government needs to do more to ensure that those children are safe. One, in the issue of social distancing in public school, is a challenge. It's a big challenge from the classrooms to the washrooms, maybe for those who use transport and all that. It's a big challenge. For the private sector, it's not a big challenge because this being private, owned by an individual or a group of people, you realize that they are able to see what they can identify maybe the need and very quickly take an action and sort out that mess.
And what sort of engagement are you having with the government, apart from the protocols which have been issued by the Ministry of Health and these guidelines which have been issued by the Ministry of Education?
Yeah.
Is there another level of engagement?
Yeah, occasionally I do visit the sub-county education office just to find out what materials, what information they have. They do come to our school to see what we are also doing, how prepared we are. And therefore, I can say in terms of us as private engaging with the government, that one we are doing it quite well. Because we keep on going to the DO's office, we are able to collect materials. When they have meetings, we do go for those meetings. And we are doing well with them.
Because there are some private schools which have asked the government to chip in, assist them, pay teachers, and meet some budgetary demands. Are you in need of any government assistance, or financially speaking?
Yeah, I heard that. I think there was some, 6 billion shillings that was to be given to private schools. Whether we are in need or not, maybe that one can be discussed by the school director with the management.
So when schools finally reopen, just paint a picture for us. A student comes to school.
Yeah.
What is the first thing they do, and where do they go next until probably the moment they're settled in class? Just describe for us from the gate, or even before they go to school.
Okay. Now we have a fleet of buses that go for the children from as early as 6 in the morning. They are picked from their picking points, then they are dropped at school. Now, right from the gate, when they are, the vehicles will drive in and the children will get out of the vehicles. Now, I'm giving you what was happening before.
Yes.
So from there, the class teachers and the teacher on duty is always there to receive the children. Once the children are received, our school is known for hugging. We call it a hugging school. Children love hugging their teachers, you know. knowing how the night of the kid was, and such kind of things. Then from there, we usher them into the classrooms. And the first thing before anything, we always remember to thank God for giving us a new day, and also for the children coming to school. So we always start with the devotion, every class in the morning. Then from there, the children will be released, rush for maybe a short call, collect homeworks here and give it to the teachers. There's a place where they do keep their books and all that. Then from there, the normal routine of the day begins. Yes.
No, but now, no hugs.
Yes. Now, with the present,
yes, with the present situation,
yes.
How is it going to be?
It will be very easy for us as a school, because we have put measures in place. Now, we have planned such a way that when the vehicles, as I mentioned earlier on, we have increased the number of buses. So they will sit according to the ministry's guideline. The vehicles will drive into the compound, and the first thing, as they alight from the buses, is to wash their hands. We have, as I mentioned, permanent water. So we have running water all through. So they'll be able to wash their hands with the soap very well before they engage in anything. Now, that is one. We also have sanitizers. As I mentioned, we have the tab where we can have the children getting through for sanitization. The next thing is the masks. They must be in masks. And that one, it is all over. They must be in their masks, okay? So they have the mask. Now the greeting, you do it from the air now. After they sanitize, they wash their hands and all that, they are able now to go to the classroom. One thing I want to mention, Mr. Kabasa, is we are sanitizing our classrooms, our floors, all over, be it the washrooms, the classrooms, the dining hall, everywhere. And therefore, we feel our children shall be very, very safe. When it comes to the dining hall, as I mentioned, we have a very big hall. In fact, not one, not even two. We have more than 2 dining halls that are very big. The children can use them. So I believe when schools open, Kasarani group of schools, we are ready.
Of course, I'm sure you have colleagues
yes,
who are head teachers in public schools.
Oh, yes.
How often do you talk, and what do they tell you about the status of preparedness in the institutions?
Public schools, there's a challenge. Truth be told, there is a challenge. One, because of the number. You see, the number of children in public schools is so big. Then the infrastructure is not actually adequate. And therefore, my proposal is, as the curve, as we are seeing, as it continues flattening, hoping it is going to flatten, the school should not just open just at once. Let the schools open in phases. For instance, we can start with the candidates classes, okay, even in public schools. You realize in a public school, maybe the class 8 candidates, there are as many as maybe 100 or 200. That's quite a big number. So if the entire school, for example, is made up of over 1,000 pupils, how do you allow all these children to go to school without proper measures? So my take would be, can the government open schools in phases? We can start with the candidates class, as there is a proposal, maybe whatever time they'll be ready, and then we monitor how the children shall be safe, how they will keep the social distancing, even to the public school. Now, because if we allowed them to open in phases, the number will be small, and therefore they'll be able to monitor. Then from there, we can bring another class. Right. Yes.
And we'll go through the guidelines, of course.
Yes.
But among the guidelines, the co-curricular activities, how these institutions are supposed to carry out such fields shall be appropriately marked to ensure learners or trainees play different games that avoid touching or holding. And of course, with children, this might prove to be a challenge. And there's don't play if feeling sick. That is one of them. Eat and drink healthy. Don't hug or high five during games, and wash hands thoroughly with running water. How tedious is this going to be? And considering that you're dealing with children, how possible is it to achieve all this?
It's not going to be easy, that's for sure. It's a challenge. But I believe when the teachers are well trained, and the children, like I've mentioned, we have created awareness to our children. In fact, during these online classes, one of the things that we are really teaching or making our children to be aware of is about the COVID-19 pandemic. So the only thing that we can do is when the children come, even the small ones, and I'm happy that they are also aware. You know, some maybe didn't know why they are wearing the masks. So they know a mask is something they need to be wearing. It will be a challenge, but with the time, I believe we shall be able to overcome. If I speak about Kasarani Group of Schools, we are not short of the field. In fact, we have 2 fields. We have the bigger one, and we also have another small one. So keeping that and also the number is to us is paramount, very, very important. So we are able, in our school, we shall be able to keep the children safe. Having them, you know, as a group somewhere there. You see, there was that CBL that the government was to start, but I think it was put on hold. About 15 children under a tree. Now, our trees there were to be like, for example, the tents. So we are able to keep these children safe. The teacher, with what we have in our school is we have a teacher with a small group, a manageable number. You know, we teach individuals, not a group. And therefore, even for these children here, we are able to control them because, 1, discipline. Number 2, they know, and we shall keep on reminding them why they have to keep safe. It is the new normal, which everybody must now learn to live with.
And another guideline is on institution community relation protocols. It's not going to be business as usual. No villager can walk into a school and walk out. So what systems are going to be put in place to ensure that all those who access these schools, especially yours, they have a purpose there? They don't just walk in and walk out. I know you have suppliers here and there. Are you going to be preparing a timetable, you know, and give them that you are going to come on such and such a date? You don't just come for your check anytime you like.
Thank you for that question. Right from the gate, there is somebody manning the gate who will be able to take your temperature. Right at the gate there, we have water and soap. So the visitor coming in, first, your temperature will be taken, then you'll have to wash your hands from the gate, then you walk in. Now, the school Kasarani group is made in such a way that you cannot access the classroom before you go through the offices. So from the gate, after you write your names and all that, you'll be ushered directly to the office. When you get to the reception, there is somebody waiting for you now to sanitize your hands. And then there is where you go and say you want to see the head teacher or whatever business that has brought you there. But definitely we shall be able, or we will reduce the number of visitors who will be visiting our school during this particular time. Those things that can be handled from the gate. For example, is a parent who is just dropping something. That parent doesn't need to get to the school. You drop it at the gate, and then we shall pick it from there. There is that the parent has come or a visitor has come, maybe a publisher and all that. That can be handled by the receptionist right at the front office.
All right. Schools have pens, there are books, there are rulers, there are geometrical sets, so many things to touch. Are we going to see a situation probably where you'll be looking at probably going the digital way? Because I know there are private institutions which do not lack the means. Are you going to be looking into that? Because a teacher might have probably around 50 books to mark. You don't know which one is contaminated and which one is clean.
Thank you. Every class, Kasarani group, every classroom has a screen. So we are doing digital already. Every classroom has a screen. So we are trying to minimize contact of these stationaries, from books to pens and other things. So the teacher, we have tablets. So the teacher will be able to use his tablet or her tablet and screen it on the big screen in the classroom, and the children will be able to take the content from there. So we are reducing the usage of stationaries as much as possible, because we are aware that can be a point of contact. And you know, in a school, whichever school, it requires only one child or one individual.
Yes.
And the whole thing will be spread like a bushfire. So to avoid all that, we are minimizing contact of stationaries, and that is why we have installed in every classroom, we have put a screen where the teacher will just put whatever stuff he has on the screen, and the children will be able to pick from there.
Currently, how does your feeding program look like? Because I know that there is going to be that need to avoid converging all these pupils under one dining hall. Are you going to stagger the meals, or what are you going to do differently?
We have 3 areas in our school where children take their meals from. We have, for example, the KG section. These are the play group all the way to the PP2. They have their own area where they take their meals from, a very big, spacious place. Then we have the main hall where we have been having classes or grade 1 all the way to class 8. And the hall has been big, and it is very big. And now what we can simply do, or what we have planned to do, is so simple, is to reorganize our timetabling so as we can have, at a particular time, a certain group going to the dining hall, have their meals, they walk out, the hall to be sanitized, then the other group goes in. Definitely, this is the new normal, and therefore, even the way we have been doing things has to change.
And food handlers, according to the guidelines by the Minister of Education, that all food handlers should have the food handling certificate, and in addition be screened for COVID-19 symptoms before being allowed to handle food. I know that institutions will now need to be thorough when it comes to such, because the food handlers, the cooks and those who serve these pupils, they have their own situations going on. They also need to stay safe from COVID-19. So what is the vetting process? How differently are you going to be doing this? Are you going to be looking for more professionals to help you handle, or the ones that are currently under your payroll, the ones who are probably going to go through some particular program to ensure they're up to date with these guidelines?
Thank you. If need arise, we shall increase the number of those who are handling food. Currently, the number of the handlers that we have put up something in place such that not only that, everybody will be now taking place when schools open. We have planned in such a way that he has to undergo the test. We have to pull the child first. So from myself to that person who is in the kitchen, to that driver who will be driving the child home and from home, you see, anybody who is coming into contact with the child, we are ensuring that, or we're going to ensure that that person is tested.
By testing, you mean the normal testing that that we go through, or the temperatures and whatnot? That's what you're talking about?
Yes, there is the normal taking of the body temperature, okay, every day, all the time. There is the washing of the hands, there is the sanitization and all that. And as I said, if need arises, it is also paramount, very important, for me to know my status.
So the workers, is the institution going to pay for their testing? Because you can test someone's temperature, but they might be asymptomatic.
Exactly, that is very true. And therefore, we need to do the real test. Now you're asking a question, will the school take the initiative to do that? Will the school be there for that particular person? As I mentioned, this is something that the manager or the director of the school and I and the board sit down and discuss and agree. Maybe I can ask you to chip in something, okay? And then the school can chip in something. This is something that I'm sure we shall sit down and agree on the way forward, because safety of the child to us comes number one, okay? As much as we are aware, these children are also coming from homes, from families, okay? And they can also get the virus from the homes and all that. But from us now as the handlers of the children, are we clean? Are we okay? how is our status? Okay, we don't want to be the source of the problem. So we are doing everything on our side. We want to see whether if we can test everybody who's going to handle the child, because in a normal day, you realize that that child is handled by very many people. I started by mentioning the driver. Actually, the driver is the first person to come into contact with the child. In that vehicle, there is a child minder. The child minder will open the door, let in the children, usher them in, and have them safe in the vehicle. Okay? That person needs to be well tested. Right after getting into the compound, then there comes a teacher. Okay? The teacher also needs to be tested. Then from there, the child will come into contact with other children. Then they'll go to the dining hall. They'll meet now the food handlers. Okay? So there is a whole group of people whom the child comes into contact with on a daily basis. So as a school, it will be important for us to ensure that we are safe, to ensure that our children are also safe.
Do you believe that there is undue pressure on the government to reopen schools?
About pressure of reopening schools, yes, it is there. The other day I was having just a meeting with my parents, and I posed a question to them. Are you tired of having these children at home? Because these children have been at home from March. It is something that we had not planned, and therefore we were just given the children. And you realize, especially in towns like in Nairobi here, where parents must wake up in the morning and go to work. When you leave that kid behind, you do not know what that child, the whole day, what the child is doing. And the children that we have, they will know that I'm at work, and mommy will come back home at this hour. Daddy will come home at this hour. So the whole day, you may not have information, you don't have the grip, the control of that particular child. And as we have seen, personally, I've seen very many children in the streets, walking, no masks, nothing, no social distancing, and all that. So the children being back to school, to me, that would be a good thing. However, the safety of the child comes first. We don't open schools for the sake of opening schools. We must, first of all, ensure that they will be safe when they come to school. We must also be monitoring the curve, the COVID-19 curve. Of late, it has been going down. The number of infection has been going down. If we continue having that curve going down, then there will be need for schools to open. I believe, personally, the child will be safer at school more than being in the streets.
So what is your take on January? Is it too far or is it too close?
It's not too far. It's not too far. Neither is it too close. We are in the month of September. We have October and November and December. I mentioned let the schools open in phases. For instance, we can start with the candidates class to reopen schools this year, depending again on the curve. From that, the schools will be able, the government shall be able to monitor. Now, this group of children are in school. How is it? Then come January, they can bring in another class, slowly by slowly. Then finally we shall have the whole school reopening.
One of the tragedies that perhaps stakeholders may be forced to look into is the idea of opening schools, and then the situation gets so bad and you are forced to close them again.
Yeah.
How do you ensure that as an institution we don't get there? I know that you have all these protocols as an institution, coupled with the ones that have been provided by the government, but there are things which sometimes cannot be avoided. In a situation where the situation gets worse, that more students and pupils are contracting the virus, you've said that they're safer in school and not at home. how are you going to deal with that situation as an institution? Are you going to regret the steps that you made?
May I correct something here? They are safe at home, but not in the streets. Today, if you walk out of this place and you just drive around, you see so many children out in the streets, playing and doing all manner of things. Now, how safe are these children? They are not under the care of anybody. You left your kid in the house, you went to work, and the child just walked out. So this child will go and join his friends and, walk around. So they are not safe out there. And that's why I said, instead of having the children out in the streets, then the best place they can be is at school under the care of a teacher. Now, about schools opening, then maybe the cases go up, then closing the school as it has happened in other countries. This is where I'm saying the government needs, before everything, before bowing into pressure by maybe some quarters that schools to open, it is important for the government to ensure that everything, all measures have been taken care of, and especially in public schools. They must ensure that there is the infrastructure is enough. They must ensure that these children have a big playground. All this must be taken into consideration. They must ensure that there is permanent water for hand washing. They must ensure that the children are safe generally in schools.
All right.
Yeah.
And within the guidelines, the ministry talked about some of the things that probably ought to happen should a scenario arise, that what to do in case of closure of educational institutions due to another outbreak of COVID-19. The government says it is aware that COVID-19 will perhaps be with us for some time before a vaccine is found.
Very true.
But institutions need to put in place adequate measures to ensure that probably learning can continue, even though not physically, but there are systems which can facilitate students and parents to properly coordinate. I know that online learning has been with us for this couple of months, but schools vary. Your school, it appears that you are very comfortable. How would you feel when you know that your child probably goes to a public institution, but you are in practice in a private institution? Will you feel the urge to transfer your child from that public institution that probably is not providing these systems for that pupil?
The truth of the matter is, public schools have a challenge, a very big challenge. And that's why the minister, Professor Magoha, is saying that he will not just open schools for the sake of opening schools. Actually, it will not be good to open schools and then tomorrow we are closing again the same schools. So what is the best way to do? Is to ensure that all the safety guidelines are being taken care of. So as the children, when we open, we don't anticipate closing the school tomorrow. And therefore, the best thing that we can do, how are we controlling this COVID-19? One of the things from the Ministry of Health is we wash our hands. Mm-hmm. Do we have running water in those schools? The other one is you sanitize if there is no running water where you are. Do you have enough sanitizers? Keep social distancing. Is it possible? Is it going to take place? Is it going to happen? Are rooms big enough to ensure that there is social distancing? So there is a whole thing, so many things that the government needs to look into. If it is private schools, for example, I know also private schools have challenges. Right now, schools have closed. The source of income of private schools has been the fees the parents do pay. Now, many schools have closed completely. Others have, there are all these challenges. So you realize that we don't rush to reopen schools for the sake of saying that Kenyan schools are back. No. We would rather take time, ensure that all these measures have been put into place, then we now open the schools.
And in terms of psychosocial support,
Yes.
how are you going to ensure the well-being of learners and staff?
How are we going to ensure the well-being of the learner and the staff? Let's start from home. The child has been at home. How has the parent been supporting that particular child psychologically? Okay? That comfort, that support that the learner has been receiving from the parents. You know, schools are, we call schools our second homes. That the child, whatever the parent has been providing to that particular kid, should be passed on to the schools. So as when they come, if they have been used to wearing the masks, let them continue wearing those masks. If they have the kind of meals, in fact, we're going to now change even the entire menu so as we can ensure that they are also eating healthy food. Okay, this one will go at a cost, and therefore the parent has to chip in to ensure that the children are also taking a balanced meal.
There are counseling institutions
Yes.
that probably will be involved. Have you factored in that? Because
Yes,
you will be bringing them, or you have set up these counseling centers or center within the institution?
We have been having guidance and counseling.
Is it in a group, or learners and staff can walk in, you know, one by one?
Not really one by one, but we have put it in such a way that the number that will get into there, they are safe in terms of social distancing. Okay, you don't have to cancel unless of a child with a certain issue. But if it is the general being of how to go about COVID-19, okay, you can put 15 learners or even more depending on the size of the room that you are in, and we cancel them. And I thank God that my teachers are well trained in terms of counseling and guidance.
And according to the guidelines by the Ministry of Education,
yes.
They talk of support of teachers for to adequately prepare for institutions reopening and recovery, that there's need for institutions to conduct teacher orientation on protocols and procedures that will ensure teachers and learners stay safe from COVID-19, and then induction and capacity building for teachers on prevention and management of COVID-19. There is building capacity of teachers on blended learning approaches, build capacity of teachers on parental guardian engagement on issues related to COVID-19 infection and prevention protocols and procedures. In public institutions, of course, the government has a plan for them, but in private institutions, could you paint a picture for us? Because this is a casserole of issues that perhaps might require weeks or even months to implement.
Very true. It may require weeks or even months to implement. It all goes back to individual schools, private schools. Okay? Kasarani group of schools. All these we have put in place, from the counseling of the children and the teachers, the training of the teachers. I mentioned we have been having regular training of teachers even during this particular time to ensure that when schools shall open, I as the teacher, how do I handle the child? How do I counsel the child? We have also been having our parents online to talk to them, to train them, to create awareness. You know, the children the same. Like when we have been having these lessons online, the teachers have been taking their time to talk to the children on the effects of COVID-19, okay? So they are very much aware of that, and we shall continue training, we shall continue counseling and guiding these particular children. We shall continue ensuring that our children remain safe. For public schools, something must be done.
And the ministry talks about non-compliance. Of course, the supervision will always be constant.
Yes.
And it will be up to you, for example, as the head of that institution, to ensure that the school adheres to all these protocols which have been laid out by the government. What sort of systems have you put in place, or are you going to put in place, just like internal audit, to ensure that you are up to date?
Yes, we need to be compliant. There are guidelines that has been issued that we must follow and ensure that we adhere to. And one thing, as I mentioned, one thing that we have done is we realize that this will be the new normal. Okay, it will be the new normal, and COVID is here to stay. Just like when HIV came, there was a stigma that with the time, people learned to stay with the virus. So COVID will be here to stay. It is going nowhere, and the only thing that we need to do is to change. To have what we call the paradigm shift. That one must change. There'll be new way of doing things nowadays. Okay. And from the children to the teachers to everybody, you find that we have, as I mentioned, we have already increased the vehicles to ensure that is taken care of, and the rooms that we have are okay. And actually, we are even putting new ones just in case, because we want to be that school that will be an example to the rest.
So, should the duration get longer, that perhaps January is not going to be conceivable? What have you put in place to deal with that? Because what it will basically mean is that the money that you have been budgeting with will not come by that January. Is there enough investment to ensure that the school is able to survive, and the essential staff, the teaching and non-teaching staff who are currently on your payroll are still paid?
As I mentioned, we reduced the number of staff.
Yes, you did.
Yeah. Should the schools not open in January? One thing we are doing is we have been doing online classes, and we have been having many children doing that. So should the schools not reopen in January, we shall continue with engaging our children. There is the CBL, the community-based learning that the government proposed to us. We are currently doing it. We are engaging the children online. So if the schools, for any reason, don't open by January, I think we shall continue with the online lessons.
And the digital literacy program was designed in a way that probably after 10 years it shall have been embraced by both private and public institutions. At first they talked of the laptops, and then they came to tablets, and private institutions like yours are putting in place systems to just stay at par. You've talked of screens in classrooms, and coming up with new ways of assessing these students, trying to minimize contact between students and the teachers, minimizing on the use of books. What sort of technology is going to be at play going forward? Because I know this COVID-19 has taught us a lot.
Yes, I have said this is the new normal, and the way to go now is digital. Although digital also literacy has its own share of challenges, from the smartphone, electricity in some areas, the child or the parent not being able to have the child on the whole day, and all these. These are things that we are addressing as a school. Should we embrace digital full-time? How are we going to ensure that we are able to keep all learners going forward? Now, is to ensure that the parents get the children a smartphone. And the first thing we do is let that parent know learning must continue. Physical learning may not be there, but learning must have to continue. So get your child a smartphone, ensure that there is a stable network, maybe get Wi-Fi or something. Or if you are using data, make sure you have enough, and get into the classroom. If I may ask, if this COVID doesn't change or the curve doesn't flatten, for how long will the children continue remaining at home doing nothing? So the only way, as we have today, is to engage the children in this digital learning. And in our school, Kasarani, we are doing quite well.
How many children do you have? Personally, you're a parent.
Yes.
How many do you have? 3.
Yeah.
How old are they?
20s?
20s.
Yes.
They have not yet started their own families.
Yeah, not yet. Yeah.
Because so many parents are concerned, because apart from being a principal, you are also a parent.
Yeah.
Yes. You wouldn't feel very good if you were taking care of other people's children the way it is supposed to be done.
Exactly.
And someone else was being charged with the responsibility of taking care of yours and not doing, or is not doing what is required of them. How do you ensure that both of you are at par?
It's a challenge. The way I take care of other children's welfare is exactly the same I would expect my children. Now, assumingly, for example, my children are in a public school, and I am in a private school, we are taking good care of this, and mine there is in a public school. Now, it's a bit of a challenge, but sometimes do the right thing. And we are encouraging also our colleagues in public schools, those who have all those challenges, which I know with the time they'll be able to overcome. They can use the little resources that they have to address the challenges and also keep the children safe. Because this is the way to go now. We may not all be online. We may not all be able to have our children online. Like, for example, if I have, with my 3 children, if I was to put them online, each will require a smartphone. I have to ensure that my house has electricity. I have to ensure that they have a stable net, okay? And that will mean I have to dig deeper into my pocket, but there.
And are you asking parents to pay for medical services? In public, not even public, but universities charge for medical services. Some charge 5,000 shillings, others even charge more than that.
Yeah.
Are parents paying for medical services?
Yeah, we have a cover. We have been covering our children medically.
How much are they paying?
By last time it was 1,700.
This is per term or per year?
Per year.
Per year,
Yeah.
1,700.
Yes.
It is a must for every parent to do so.
Yeah, we actually ask parents to do it because you never know when the disease will strike.
So where are these people taken to hospital? Good hospitals like the big private ones that we know, or public?
Oh yes, they are taken to good hospitals. Parents' choice. You see, the child has fallen sick. I call the cover. They come to school. They evacuate the kid. They will first of all do everything for the child. If they realize that this requires some special treatment, I get to the parent. I ask the parent, now your child is ABCD, which hospital? They will tell me the hospital, and we take the child there.
So you said 1,700 per year or per month?
Per year.
Wow, that's impressive, because the government has also been trying to ensure that students are covered.
It's good
medically.
to cover the children and also the whole staff. Very important.
All right. And which medical company, which insurance companies have you engaged in this?
AR.
And COVID-19 has taught Kenyans a lot.
Yes.
Even in the insurance circles, there are those who feel that perhaps the insurance companies ought to be doing more, but most of them do not cover pandemics. Is that particular cover going to insure these students?
When we covered the children, that time COVID was not there. And therefore it is something that needs to be renegotiated.
Have you talked to the insurer?
So far, not yet, but I'm sure when I call them, we shall sit down and we shall agree.
Because I thought perhaps that is one of the preparations that as an institution
Exactly.
you ought to.
That's what I've said. I've not called them, but they are just a phone call away. I'll get to them. We sit down. We agree before schools open. Definitely, that one will have been sorted out.
Are you optimistic that probably you're going to have your way?
Yeah, I'm sure. They are good people. We have done business with them for many years. I don't think they can let me down at least hour of need.
So is it 1,700 shillings per child or?
Yeah, per child.
Per child.
Yeah.
So if you have 3 children in that school, then
you see, when it comes to health issue, you cover an individual because you never know. Okay, so we cover every child. Okay, there are parents who have their own covers. They will tell you, no, let my child not be in this cover because my child is covered by this insurance. And we always let them have their way. You know, what we try to avoid is, should a child fall sick in my hands, okay? I'm not a doctor. That's one thing I let the parents know. The teachers are not doctors. We don't go about treating children. You see, we are not doctors, okay? We don't even actually, we cannot give them anything in terms of medication, okay? So, and I don't want to call you. I'll call you and then you tell me, oh, I'm at work, okay? So we encourage the parents, make sure that your child is covered by a certain insurance. So as in case of anything, I'm able to call the cover. They'll come and take care of the child.
All right.
Yeah.
You are watching News Check. We are discussing the reopening of schools. The Ministry of Education has issued guidelines that must be followed by institutions. They are organized in such a way that before you open schools, there are demands that you must meet. And during the opening also, there are some of the raft of measures that as an institution you ought to also meet. It talks a lot about personal hygiene, counseling services for learners as well as teachers. But some other matters that we are following for you this morning, the registration of marriages has been moved to the Nairobi school, just a couple of kilometers from here. 20 couples are being joined together at that particular institution. I know those who want to get married are getting married. Those who are waiting for weddings perhaps are still waiting. The CS State Law Office, Winnie Gashu, is gracing that event. As soon as things are ready there, we will be crossing over to Irene Wichuma Odem, who is following that for us. A couple of pictures she has provided there. It is a momentous occasion for some of these couples. It is 11 a.m. We're taking a very short break. News Check still continues. The principal Kasarani group of schools is still with us in studio. We'll be taking a look at this emerging issues in the education sector. COVID-19 has been with us for a couple of months, and it will perhaps still be there. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
When the world changed, it made us go back to the simple joys and love the little things even more, like serving up your best, eating together, and sharing more. Now, we'll take nothing for granted and always remember to taste the simple joys. Coca-Cola. Taste the simple joys.
Gear up and maintain a healthy, fit and active lifestyle right there at home by keeping up with Gear Up on Channel 1, 5:30 to 6 a.m. Monday to Saturday. Gear up every day for every moment, and remember to stay home and keep safe.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
I wonder what you must be going through. But the way His Highness is showering affection on Dharma and her son, compared to that, it seems we've never even received a fraction of it. If Ashok wins, then Dharma will deprive us of everything.
I completely agree with Ashok in this matter.
Tunakupa burudani.
Na umbea, yani stories zinazo trend kwenye mitandao ya kijamii.
See baby, now we are two in one. We are two in one.
Interview kali za wasanii wapendao.
Mguu pande panda milima. Izungushie hapo ma. Kama una
Ndani ya March of Life kupitia KBC Channel 1 na Pwani FM.
Kuanzia mida ya saa 3 mpaka mida ya 5 kamili asubuhi. Ukiwa nami ni Teken 1GB.
Mimi ni Marco. Keep it locked.
Malewa.
This weekend on KBC Channel 1.
Unaona ile mikutano nimetembea na wewe kwa vijana, nimeona potential yako. Na badala ningoje aibu, that's why nimeamua ubakie kuwa deputy governor, mimi ndo nitasimama na mzee Alfani.
Hiyo haitawezekana.
No, it will never happen. I will never compromise. Ngoja aje hapa. Over my dead body.
Ngima tega gaska watu tegu. Ngima te yat mugulel dang. Ngima te mangue. Nyange begi putinai. Lale, kimi give again. Lale, Kitut FM gigosi. Lale, Kitut FM gigosi. Kitut FM gigosi.
98.0 Kitwek FM Kegosin.
Good morning. Thank you very much for staying with us. This is News Check. This day of 16th September, Kenya is going to join the world in marking the International Day of Ozone Layer. That particular exercise is taking place at the Michuki Memorial Park, just a couple of meters from the broadcasting house, and also the International Day of Peace is also being marked today, as well as the designated marriage center has been moved from the state law office to the Nairobi Primary School. Of course, 20 couples are tying the knot, taking advantage of that particular exercise. And we are also talking about schools reopening. the Ministry of Education has issued some guidelines which must be followed by institutions just to ensure the safety of learners as well as the staff, non-teaching and teaching staff. Also, we do expect the Senate is going to be sitting this afternoon. Yesterday, they did sit, but the House was adjourned to allow members go for a Kamkunji to agree on the contentious formula, the third basis for revenue sharing among the 47 county governments. They have been discussing that for quite some time now, having adjourned that debate 9 times. We'll be taking a look at that in the afternoon to see whether or not the senators will be able to agree. There is a 12-member committee which was established to thrash out some outstanding issues just to ensure that there is a workable formula that will ensure no county is losing. And yesterday, President Uhuru Kenyatta did meet the Council of Governors through the representation of the chair, Governor Wycliffe Oparanya, and the president did promise counties an additional 50 billion shillings in the next financial year, but there was a condition to that. The 50 billion shillings will be handed out to counties if the economy does well. So many questions have been asked with regards to that. Is it possible to predict the future of Kenya's economy, or is this perhaps a means of ensuring that all the stakeholders go back to the negotiating table and thrash out some outstanding issues just to ensure that counties are able to get that money that they require to ensure that service delivery is expedited? The National Assembly also did engage in a debate yesterday to ensure that should there be an impasse as it is right now, counties are still able to draw at least 50% of what they are required to get out of the 316.5 billion shillings which has been made available by the national government. In studio with me is Danny Gishuru, the head teacher, Kasarani Group of Schools. You did mention that pupils will be required to put on their masks. Of course, this is a requirement. How many masks will you require a student to have, and what time?
In a day?
Yes.
1 mask a day, I believe, should be enough. Yes, 1 mask per day, I believe it should be enough. The other thing is, this mask will be provided by the parents. So the child will leave home in a mask, and he'll be expected to remain in that mask the entire day. Okay? Now, why am I saying the child to remain in that mask the entire day? There'll be the risk of a child removing the mask. After removing the mask, another child comes and picks the same mask. So that it will not be nice. Huh? If you remove your mask, these are children. The child may leave it on his or her locker. And there is a possibility of these masks being look the same. Like, for example, the surgical ones. Huh? So if this one is left there is always the danger of a child picking another child's mask. So we would really encourage children to remain in their masks. I know health-wise, they say, especially for the small ones, it interferes with their breathing and all that, but I would recommend to parents to ensure that they get the right masks, okay? That will ensure the child is able to breathe comfortably.
In school, parents label everything: sweaters,
yes,
shirts, socks, shorts.
They do.
Are they going to be required to label this mask?
To an extent, yes. To an extent, yes. Because you can imagine you picking my mask or me picking your mask, okay? But when it is labeled, I'm able to tell this is my mask, okay? And to avoid all that, keep your mask. That's the thing, keep your mask. This is not a sweater that it's hot, you remove the sweater. It is a requirement. It's one of the ways through which we are able to control this pandemic. So it's not that when I'm having this lesson, I don't need you to use the mask and all that. When you are eating, when they are having their meals, they can have them at least they drop them, but not literally removing the mask. That one I would have a problem because of mixing these masks and fear of you taking my mask, I taking your mask. Because even with the labeled uniform, they still mix them up. Okay? Yeah, you know, some parents write the names of the kids somewhere in a sweater and hidden. So at the end of the day, you find the child is picking the sweater that is nearby. Okay? So for the mask, that is a very risky part. The way they take care of their handkerchiefs, that's exactly the same way they should be able to take care of their masks.
So have you probably thought of procuring some masks and making them available to these learners, of course, at a fee?
That is something that we can think of. For now, I would say no. But at the moment, we will require the parents to provide.
The government has extended the curfew a couple of times now.
Yes.
And perhaps until Kenya gets to deal with this coronavirus pandemic, the curfew might still remain in place.
Yes.
If schools reopen, some of these institutions, I'm sure, like private institutions, they tend to have tuition classes beyond the normal hours.
Yeah.
A curfew at 9 p.m., some of these students need to go home, others live very far. Are you still going to have these tuition classes proceed until 5 p.m.?
The whole thing will now change. I said we have now to adjust everything from the timetabling and all that. If it means to leave school by 3, for the child to be at home before 9, we shall have to do that. Okay? Yeah, we have to do that. Because now, again, we don't want our buses to be out. Of course, in our school, no. The latest time the bus is out there is around 6. Okay? And also that depends on the traffic. To be at to be at home after 9, okay, we have not had that challenge. But now, again, the other thing that we need to look at is, you see now the bus will not be able to carry the capacity as it were before. That means the vehicles might be forced to do more rounds. And that therefore means you change the whole thing about the timetabling, finish the class on time to be able to give the vehicles time to get to drop the children, maybe come and pick another group and be back in school before 7.
The government wants a scenario where all schools open together. But it appears that some are ready, others are not ready. What happens? You're going to wait for those ones who are not ready, or they will be forced to hurry up?
There'll be no time that we shall all be ready, that's for sure.
That's why you talked of opening in phases?
Yes, because if we say we wait for everybody to be ready, it is not possible.
Then that is in contrary to what the government wants. Magoha has repeated it so many times that schools must open at the same time.
That's okay, but the problem is, are we ready? Is the government ready? You see? What will be the point of opening schools and then we close them again tomorrow? Why not reopen in phases and monitor the few who will be in school? Then, if we see it's okay, then we bring another group, slowly by slowly. Meanwhile, online classes are ongoing. So the child is not like, is at home doing nothing, okay? So we should encourage, actually, the online classes to be moving on. And that's why I said, can we start with the candidates class, class 8 and Form 4s? We monitor them first. We see how the rate of infection is. Maybe should we realize the curve is going up, then we don't have to continue with them. But if we realize they are safe, then we can bring another group in phases.
So how are we going to do this as a country without compromising on the quality of education?
Nothing. Okay. There's nothing that to compromise the standard of education. The government said that the children shall repeat classes. So if you are in class 3, and now this year we are calling it a wasted academic year, the government said next year the child shall repeat. Okay, class 3. So whatever the child was supposed to learn this year and did not learn, then the child will repeat, will do the same next year.
Because some of these guidelines are time consuming. If it takes you 1 hour, for example, to prepare a student for a class, normally, then you will require more. Because if all students are to wash their hands before going to class or sanitize their hands before going to class, and even when they are in class, there are still other things which they need to do for that class to start. Does it mean that the classes, the time it takes a teacher to teach a lesson will probably needs to be readjusted? How are we going to do it?
That is the challenge I'm talking about. There'll be time for washing of hands, there'll be time for sanitizing, there'll be time for all this, okay? And then at the same time, the teacher there is some work the teacher has prepared to cover within a specific time, okay? And the children, at the same time, there is curfew. Let's remember there's curfew. Should the schools open, okay? The child must be in the house before 9, and the teacher and everybody must be in the house before 9, okay? So everything here will be, you readjust everything, okay? From that timetable, the teacher to see and to try and maximize the time that you'll be having with the children. It is now the teacher to try and maximize that particular time, okay? And this is because it is a whole country, the entire country, okay? Being the entire country, it's not that like one school is the one going to suffer. It is the entire country. So the only thing that we can do is we readjust, and then when I go in to teach, I make sure that whatever I have planned to do is achievable within that time, because I'll be short of time.
At what time is the first pickup in the morning?
6.
At 6? Because there have been concerns being raised, even on social media, that some pupils are picked as early as 5:30 a.m.
Yeah, that's too early.
Are we going to see a situation probably going forward that to compensate for that time, then students will be required to report to school earlier?
No, I wouldn't support that. For the child to be at school by 5:30, what time did that child wake up? Around 4. Okay, these are children, small minds, okay, young minds, okay? They need enough rest. And therefore, to compensate and say to that, let's not punish the children by making them wake up at 3:34. Okay? In fact, you may wake the kid at 4, but at the end of the day, you have done nothing. So to me, I wouldn't advocate for that. Let the teacher know what to do with the limited time that he or she has, because I know it is doable. It can be achieved. Whatever you were to do within 1 hour, okay, you can try to consolidate and do it within the 40 minutes. But making the child to be awake by the roadside by 4:35, that will be punishing the kid. Why should we punish the child? There's no need.
So it starts at 6 a.m. and goes all the way until 5. Okay. So students will be required to repeat classes.
Yes.
Not everyone is pleased with that.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that those weak ones have an opportunity to catch up. How are you going to ensure that they are helped in terms of catching up? I know that not all students are intellectually at par.
That's true. For the weak ones, as we have done before, because even the normal times, we have had weak children. And teachers have always created time for the weak children, okay? And you find that the child may not be weak in everything. Maybe he's only weak in a certain subject. So the teacher of that particular subject always create time to sit with the kid. So the same thing shall happen this time round, okay? One, I don't want to say that the children are going to repeat. What am I saying? They were in school for only 2 months. So what are you repeating? You didn't go through the whole year. So if I'm in class 5, or I was to join to class 5 this year, I have not covered the syllabus for class 5. So next year when I go to class 5, am I really repeating? No, right. I'm not repeating. Because it's only that I have not moved forward, but you cannot blame anybody here. And in the actual sense, that term, repetition, I don't think is the right one.
All right.
Yeah, you are repeating something that you have already done. Here, the child has not done that syllabus, so the child is not repeating.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let us now cross over to the Nairobi Primary School, where the government has set up marriage center. It has been moved from the state law office to that particular institution, of course, because of social distancing. 20 couples are exchanging their vows this morning, and the PS state law office, Pinikushu, is presiding over that particular event. Let us listen in.
20 weddings to conduct per day. So having interviews and conducting interviews at Sharia House at the same time is definitely going to attract a lot of crowds. So what we have done is that we have left the registration process to continue online. Then the interviews are done in Sharia House. Then the marriage ceremonies have all been moved from Sharia House to Nairobi Primary. And we are only allowing the bride, the groom, and the 2 witnesses to come and to celebrate their wedding here. Now, we have 2 points where we are conducting the marriages. This is 1 point, and we have another point across there, so that every couple has some form of privacy when they are conducting their marriages. We have chosen to do it in open air because it is safer under the circumstances of COVID-19. It is safer for the couples who are getting married and the registrars of marriages, the people who are conducting the marriages, because it is in the open and we are able to do social distancing for the processes of marriage. So we want to thank Nairobi Primary School for availing this venue, and it has been gazetted as required by law so that marriages can be conducted here for the next 3 months. When schools resume, we hope we'll have dealt with a lot of backlog, so we'll be able to find another option. If schools do reopen, we'll find another venue where we can continue to do the weddings outdoor. We have a total of 60 weddings every week. So we are conducting marriage ceremonies on Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Friday. And every day we are officiating 20 marriages, 10 on this side and 10 on the other side. So currently we have already conducted 6 up to now, and we are hoping that we'll be able to conduct the remaining 14 before the end of the day. Now, we want to look at especially the different types of marriages that we conduct in law in Kenya. There is the Christian marriage, there is the Hindu marriage, Islamic marriage, civil marriages. These are civil marriages that we are conducting here, and also there are Christian marriages. So the Christian marriages are conducted in churches, so those are going to continue as they have been conducted. The civil marriages are the ones happening here. We want to talk about in particular, to bring to the attention of the public, about the civil marriages. You remember when the Marriage Act 2014 was being discussed in Parliament, when it was a bill, there was quite a bit of controversy because customary marriages are polygamous or potentially polygamous. Now we have seen a very low uptake of these marriages, the customary marriages, because ordinarily people will go through the customary rites, but the law now allows that after you've conducted all the customary rites, the marriage can be registered and a marriage certificate is issued. Now, since 2017, when the law became effective, we have only conducted 273 customary marriages. Reason being that when they come, when customary couples who want to conduct customary marriages, when they come, it is important that we inform them that these marriages are polygamous or potentially polygamous. And that has drawn a lot of people away from officiating. But we want to encourage that people in customary marriages come and register their marriages so that they have marriage certificates. It safeguards when it comes to the processes of succession, so that there is there is clarity about the parties who are involved in those polygamous marriages. So we shall be conducting a lot of civic education with regards to the types of marriages, and the processes that people need to go through. But at this point, we want to encourage customary marriages to be able to be registered so that those couples do have their marriage certificates. So I think with that, that is what we wanted to emphasize on the process that is the processes that we are undergoing. Of course, Christian marriages are done in church, where the churches have been registered with the Register of Marriages to allow the priests or the pastors to conduct marriages. Hindu marriages are also conducted in the Hindu temples where they are registered, and also Islamic are conducted in the Islamic tradition. Customary, of course, they must fulfill all the customary rites, and the ones that we are conducting here, the ones that are conducted at Sharia House and have moved here, are civil marriages. So thank you very much.
That is the CAS State Law Office, Winnie Gishu, officially launching Nairobi Primary School as a designated marriage registration area. 20 couples have taken that opportunity to register their marriage, and Irene Wichuma Odim is following those matters for us. The Office of the Attorney General has moved that particular exercise to Nairobi Primary just to ensure that it practices safe social distancing, considering the space available at the State Law Office at the CBD. And that particular story will be made available to you in our subsequent bulletins. Of course, you will see the sights and scenes. Marine Michuma is following that for us. And in studio, I am still with the principal, Kasarani Group of Schools, and we are discussing the reopening of learning institutions. The Ministry of Education has issued some guidelines which are supposed to be followed by institutions. These guidelines are supposed to guide the reopening of schools. Currently, the ministry is engaged in negotiations with stakeholders to assess the COVID-19 situation in the country and see if it is possible to reopen public learning or all learning institutions before January 2021. The government has maintained that the substantive reopening date still remains January 2021, but things could change. The government is mulling over the possibility of reviewing these particular dates. And of course, we have seen some institutions, some institutions have put in place systems. There are universities that are currently enrolling new students for the academic year that they are going to begin this September, and part of this particular process is being done online. Classes are going to be conducted online. I don't know what Kasarani Group of Schools has been doing, but do you think that perhaps it is high time we paid attention to this this learning process? You mentioned that parents will be encouraged to buy smartphones for their children, but how do we make it sustainable to make it part of the education system in the country?
You see, COVID has taught us a lot. It was not something that we had anticipated, and therefore it has come up with its own new challenges. And now that COVID has, so far, we know that it is going nowhere. And now what do? Shall we going to stay at home? Are we going to close the school forever? The answer is no. At one point, whether next year or whichever time, schools will be opened. Meanwhile, what should the parents do? I say they must now this time round dig deeper in their pockets and ensure that their children remain relevant as far as education is concerned. They have to get to ensure that their children have got the right devices to have or to be in online classes, as we are doing in Kasarani Group of Schools, right from the tender care to the class 8, in fact, even to the high school, because that is the way to go. Before, the normal things, the normal way of doing things come, which we do not know when. It may never come back again. And therefore, I would encourage the parents to ensure that they provide their children with the necessary devices for the children to continue learning. COVID has not stopped learning. What COVID has stopped is that being together, but learning continues. And that is what Kasarani Group of Schools are doing. We have been doing it, and we shall continue doing it until such a time when the government shall give us an okay to have children physically come into school.
And when I was in school, smartphones were illegal.
Yeah.
Phones were illegal.
Very true.
And right now it appears that the situation is changing. It is becoming a necessity.
Yeah.
How are you going to ensure that it is safe for them to use and they do not manipulate the system? Because cheating is still there. Despite the reforms that have been put in place by the government to curb it, there are those who are still tempted to cheat.
Yeah, you see, these phones, the children are using them from home. So it is upon the parent to ensure they know what is the stuff that is in that particular phone. You see, me as a teacher, I'm far away from the child. I do not know what a child engages himself in when the child is at home with a phone. So it is upon the parent to ensure that the material, the stuff that is in that phone is controlled. Of course, when school shall open, the children will not come with these phones to school. Okay? They will not come with them to school. They will leave them at home. But if for now, meanwhile, for online lessons to go on, the child has no choice but to have the tablet or the smartphone. So we call upon the parents to monitor what the child is doing with that particular phone. I know there are parents who got that app, we are using Zoom, and the child can do nothing else other than the Zoom classes. That's all, the Zoom lessons, nothing else. So we tell parents, the teacher may not be there at home, definitely. You are now the parent, you are the guardian to this particular child. Now, counsel the child on the usage of your device.
All right.
Yeah. But when school shall open, these gadgets to be left at home.
So are we going to see a situation, perhaps, that might force the school to allow the students to bring in these devices? Because I know it is done elsewhere, where children are allowed to go to school with their phones. I know there are some countries that allow students in high school to go to school with their phones. Are we there yet?
I don't think we are there yet. Our school, we have tablets, so the tablets belong to school. So if we must use these devices, our Kasarani Group of Schools, the director was kind enough to buy the tablets for the school, would give the children to use if need be. Because I don't think we are there yet to use the devices with our children at school and all that.
Will that time come?
Should that time come, then we shall create awareness to the children. Because the phones are okay, they are good, but also they can also be a source of other things.
If it is done elsewhere, does it mean that we are not responsible enough as a society?
At the moment, before COVID, let me ask you before COVID. You see, before COVID, learning was one-on-one, isn't it?
Yes.
COVID is the one that has brought this. So during this time, 3-5 months down the line, during this COVID time, we are still learning on how to be responsible with the phones. Some children do not know, they are not responsible. I would not really advocate for use of these devices in school at this particular time. Let them be used at home. I'm happy even the small ones have known how to use them. Maybe with the time, they'll know how to use them.
Because some parents have no problem giving their children the phones to use.
And some parents have a problem of giving these phones to their children.
So how do
as
you
a
strike a
school,
balance?
we try to make the balance. That's why children wear uniform, to balance everybody. You know, we wear uniform. So we look at the pros and the cons, okay? But should the government put it like the children must now use the phones in learning? I mentioned Kasarani group, we have screens in every classroom, okay? The teacher is able to use his tablet and air everything on the screen, and children are able to see from there. So should it reach that it is an order, we are law abiders, we have to do that. But at the moment, not yet.
I know that your interest and loyalty perhaps lies with the school that is currently that has currently employed you. But what would you want to see happen in Kenya's education system? Should there be more money being pumped into the education system? What sort of reforms do you think might help this country in that particular system?
Yes, there should be more money set aside for the education sector. The population is increasing daily. Maybe when we got independence, we were less than 10 million. Today, the last census talked of about 45, 47 million. And therefore, children are being born every day. Every year, children will have to go to school. Okay? Like now, if the children are going to repeat, there are children who are already attained the school-going age, who are supposed to join tender care next year. The government needs to accommodate them. How will it accommodate? Set aside more money for the construction of more infrastructure in various schools, okay? Then have more teachers, because the teachers, as I always hear, we have shortage of teachers. Let there be more teachers trained to be able to handle these particular children, and more schools. Yeah, I think if the government can also put up more schools, it will try to ease the congestion in some schools. You know, when you have a school with, let's say, about 1,000 children or 2,000, really even the quality of education is compromised.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll continue with that, but let us cross over to the Michuki Memorial Park, where Kenya is joining the world in marking the International Ozone Layer Day. Currently speaking is the Conservator of Forests.
Park, and recently we hosted His Excellency the President of the Republic of Kenya at Misuki Park during the official reopening or launching on the 14th of August 2020. The mandate Thank you, and Karibu, Your Excellency. The mandate of the Kenya Forest Service is to conserve, protect, and manage all public forests, and to provide technical support to the county governments to conserve and manage forest resources on community and private lands for the equitable benefit of the present and future generations. Forests are one of the God-given natural resources, and their importance to the general well-being of humanity, and more so that of our country, Kenya, cannot be gainsaid. Indeed, they support all aspects of our lives, from the provision of environmental services, such as water provision, support key sectors of the economy in agriculture, energy, manufacturing, and tourism sector. Related to this day and relevant to this day, it is the forest's role in regulating our environment by sequestering carbon and also absorb pollutants, gases, such as nitrogen oxide, ammonia, sulfur dioxide, and ozone, and filter particulates out of the air by trapping them through their leaves and barks. Forests thus give us clean air and reduces greenhouse gases, and their effects is in the atmosphere. As you may be aware, our chief guest, the ground level ozone pollution is distinct from the ozone layer high in the other atmosphere. And atmospheric ozone protects the planet by absorbing the sun ultraviolet rays. Pollutants formerly used in the refrigerants and aerosols can have destroyed part of this layer, or could have destroyed part of this layer. But close to the ground, ozone harms plants, animals, including forests, and human beings themselves. And therefore the ground level ozone forms from the nitrous oxide and other pollutants released when people burn fossil fuels. Trees absorb both these nitrous oxide and fully formed ozone. And therefore, according to a new research, Bwana CS, which is titled Forest Could Be a Thrifty Way to Fight Ozone Pollution 2014, they asserted that planting trees may be a cost-effective way to reduce ground-level ozone, a toxic component of smog that contributes to the deaths of about 152,000 people annually worldwide. In fact, the research generated a model that predicted that people could reduce ozone pollution more cheaply with trees than with the engineering-based method, such as stricter control over emissions from cars and factories. Reforestation was cost-effective so long as people, or can be cost-effective, so long as people can cooperate and collaborate in tree planting initiatives. At the same time, a revitalized forest would expand recreation opportunities like we see here today, increase biodiversity, and help prevent erosion. Talk of restoration of green spaces, such as the Mishuki Park, where we are gathered today, Karura Forest, City Park, Arboretum, Gong Road, and Gong Hills Forests, as they are strategically located in urban areas prone to ground level ozone. Unfortunately, despite the very critical importance that forest plays, as I have enumerated above, there are also casualties of climate change impact and the stratospheric ozone depletion. Climate change contributes to shifting of vegetation cover, geographical ranges of tree species, and seasonal timing of development, which further modifies exposure to the UVB radiations. Stratospheric ozone depletion directly contributes to the climate change by exposing forest ecosystem to altered patterns of precipitation, temperature, and fire regimes, which actually continue to affect this country as we have envisaged. And therefore, the shift of these rainfall patterns offers and actually compromises the survival and reproduction of forest resources. Therefore, atmospheric pollution, or the other side, affects the forest composition and functions, and therefore, beside ozone depletion, it contributes to the frequency, as I have said, of forest fires, pests, and diseases. Our chief guest, to address the threats posed by climate change and ozone depletion on forest ecosystem, Kenya Forest Service is collaborating with other government ministries and agencies, stakeholders and partners, as we have seen them today here, to implement climate actions aiming at regaining the ecological functionality and enhancing human well-being of deforested and degraded landscapes. This is through our core programs, National Tree Cover Campaign Project, which I think the ministry has been leading, Forest and Land Restoration Program, all aimed at increasing the forest cover to above 10% by 2022, at the same time deliver associated ecological, socioeconomic, recreational, cultural, spiritual benefit to the current and future generations. I would therefore like our chief guest to emphasize the successfully protecting of forests and landscapes will help protect the ozone layer and deliver most of the sustainable development goals. It is therefore imperative that the implementation of the ozone regime put more efforts and investment in protecting and sustainably managing forest resources, tackling climate change, and protecting nature and ecosystems that sustain life on Earth. As we focus our attention on matters of forestry within public forests, it is important also that we all note that the greatest potential for increasing forest cover is outside the state-owned forest areas. To this end, and as we continue to reclaim, rehabilitate, and restore degraded forest land, I wish to encourage farmers and private land owners to set aside at least 10% of their land for tree and fruit tree growing, which will go a long way to reducing pressure for forest product and services from the state and community forests. Our chief guest, as I conclude, I urge all stakeholders to partner support and complement Kenya Forest Service efforts in delivering the National Forest Cover Agenda and aspiration of keeping our forests safe now and in the future. Let us all preserve our forests. By doing so, we will be employing the most efficient means to preserve our ozone layer. May God bless us all. Thank you so much.
All right, that is the Chief Conservator of Forest making his speech as Kenya marks the International Day of the Ozone Layer at the Muchuki Memorial Park, I beg your pardon. That particular event is still ongoing. Muchuki Park is just a couple of meters from the broadcasting house where we are, and our reporter Suleiman Yeri is following that for us. Of course, he will be telling us comprehensively what took place, but the world right now is engaged in ensuring that it reverses the damage which has been done to the ozone layer. Climate change is with us, and the U.S. is one of those areas that have been affected. Of course, that has formed the basis of the presidential campaigns which are currently ongoing. President Donald Trump with his own beliefs, and the Democrats led by Joe Biden also with their own beliefs. We are expecting to get a way forward. What engagement will the government be doing to ensure that Kenya is able to increase its forest cover and protect its ozone, its environment, and subsequently protect the ozone layer. I'm still with the principal, Kasarani group of schools. Tree planting is something that is done in all schools across the country.
Yes.
I don't know whether you as an institution has also done that, or it is a continuing process. Are students encouraged to plant trees in school?
We encourage children to do so much, from tree planting to waste management to the cleaning of markets and all that. So we are engaged in community work regularly, and therefore to us going out there to plant or to clean the market, actually it's one of the things that we do in Kasarani group of schools. We do plant trees.
Do they understand what they're doing?
Oh yes, and they really love it. You know, before you take the child out to go and plant a tree, the first thing you do is you educate the child. Why plant the tree? What is the importance of that tree? You look at the benefits of the tree and all that. Okay? So when you are taking them out there, they go there and they have fun planting the trees, knowing that when this tree, one time, this tree will come to help. It may not help that child that time, but it is going to help the country at large. So we do plant trees.
And parents, are they required to pay, or it is just an initiative which has been started by the school? It is an
initiative of the school.
Okay.
To give back to the community. You see, like when we go to the markets to clean, we don't ask parents for anything. We just identify a market, we liaise with the area administration, and we take the children there. We ensure the children are safe. They clean the market, they collect the wastes, and we can go back to school.
Yeah, and of course, through that, you are able to inculcate some good manners in these children.
Yeah, the good morals. Children are able to feel they are part of the community. Because who is the community? It is the parent and the child, isn't it? So we want them to go back there and help. You see, let's not complain that there is a dumping of garbage at a particular place. Who dumped the garbage? It's not the city council. It is you and I. So if it is you and I, then we go and collect. The trees cutting. Who cut the trees? It is us. So let's go and replace. So we do that all the time, and I'm happy the children take it positively.
All right.
Yeah.
And we have a couple of minutes to go.
Yeah.
just in terms of closing remarks, earlier I asked you about what sort of reforms you want to see the government inject in the education sector.
Yeah.
Should it inject more money as well?
Yeah.
But for private institutions, I know that every institution has its own guiding principles, the
Yes.
set of standards that must be attained by these institutions. What sort of reforms should be injected in the private sector to ensure that the quality that we have now is maintained going forward?
I want to close by saying that all life matters. We care for the children, and we cannot afford to risk the safety and the well-being of the child. We do care for the children so much. And therefore, as a private school, is upon us to ensure that the children that we care so much for, that his life is not in any way endangered. The child should feel very comfortable while at school. The child should be able to feel that this is my second home. The child should feel that the teachers are my second parents. Okay? Now, one thing that we do when the children come to school, we allow them to open up. You do not spend the night with the kid. Some of these children maybe underwent a lot of problems at home. Maybe there were some conflicts in the house and all that, okay? So the child is looking for solace from you as a teacher. So we must give them an ear. And the child feels very much welcomed and consoled when he sees a teacher listening to him or her. So that's one thing we do. Now, to ensure that these things go on is upon private schools and also the government to ensure that our classrooms are not congested. I had mentioned earlier on, we need more classrooms to reduce the congestion. We need more teachers, so as teachers can teach individuals. Kasarani group, we teach a learner, not learners. Yeah, my problem is not your problem. So we teach a learner, an individual. And, and that can only be possible if the number I have is not that big. The other thing that the government needs to do, or the private schools need to do, is during my days when I was in primary school, we used to carry lunch to school. Nowadays, children are fed at school. So it is important to look at the kind of meals they are taking. Okay? Is it satisfying? Is it a balanced meal? It is upon the school to look into that. Okay? So those are some of the things that the government, the schools can do. And for those who are transporting children,
Right.
they have school vehicles, then they need to ensure that the children are safe, the vehicles are roadworthy, and every vehicle should have a childminder.
All right. That does it for us for News Check. I am handing you back to Michuki Memorial Park, where the CS for Environment is currently speaking, and Tamrini will be coming in next.
Mine will be brief because I am not actually the chief guest. I am the host. So nawakaribisha sana. Welcome you to Michuki Park and National Museum. You see both facilities have been combined, and we work very closely with the National Museums, my colleague CS Amina, the Ministry of Sports, Culture, National Heritage, Director General Dr. Kibunja. So don't ask yourselves why we are here. We didn't break the walls. Actually, the walls just fell off because as a matter of course, it was a natural. We are one and the same government. And both facilities belong to you, the people of Kenya. Your Excellency, the Governor, I thank you for finding time of your busy schedule to be with us. Your presence here as the Governor of this county It's very, very significant and very important. And we respect you and your office. And as you said correctly, we have worked together as ministry and your government, county government, on issues to do with the environment, the cleanup of the Nairobi River, dealing with solid waste, and many others. We have continued to work together, the three of us, myself, yourself, and General Badi, who is now the DG of the Nairobi Metropolitan Services. All of us are working together, serving the people of this beautiful country, serving the people of this beautiful city. It is not competition as to who is more powerful, who is senior, who is more influential. That really doesn't matter at all. What our people want and deserve is unity of purpose. Time has gone. We have less than 2 years left to 2022, or almost. And so time is not on our side. And we should try as best as we can to maximize on the time left by delivering services to our people and avoiding sideshows. Time for sideshows will come, time for campaigns will come, and Your Excellency the Governor, I assure you, as I have assured the DG NMS, that we are willing, ready and able to work together with your government, your ministries and your agencies to ensure that the people of this beautiful city get the services they deserve. Secondly, and I apologize because I had to change the site, the venue. And I know what I realized was when I was planting trees, and PS mentioned about 35 trees, I was actually disappointed because I was just getting, that was just warm up. So I was a little, it was an anticlimax, 35. I normally do 100 plus. But I noticed that a number of you are just standing by and watching. And you got tired by 35 and you went to the tent to sit and wait for us to finish, and then so that we can. So I decided, let me change the way. Make you now walk and sit in the sun, but under trees. And that's why we're here. And I apologize if I caused any offense, any inconvenience. But I'm sure you all realize and appreciate that this is the best ever choice of site, isn't it? Yeah. The governor has spoken about the green spaces. The director, UN Habitat, has spoken about green spaces. And thank you, convey our appreciation to the executive director for the work that they have done for posterity. And shortly you'll be handing over to us the inventory that you, working with others, of all the green spaces within the Nairobi city metropolis that you have documented, you have mapped out, and you have given proposals on how best to work together, government and non-government agencies, international organizations, to preserve, conserve and protect these green species, not just for ourselves, not just for our children, but for our children, and for generations yet to be born. And there is no better manifestation of the beauty, tranquility of such than here at Michuki Park. Governor, you know we have been engaged in this exercise for long, and the results are now here to be seen. We worked with your team and DG to ensure, as directed by the President, that Michuki Park has been restored, rehabilitated, and beautified, and that's why we are here today. All that could have been said has been said about why we are here today, to celebrate, along with the rest of the globe, the World Ozone Day. We have understood, we have heard why it is important. That's why it is ozone for life. And environment is life. One philosopher once said rather, that if you think as between money and environment, which one is more important, why don't you try and count your money while you are holding your breath? And you see how long you can go. It tells you between money and environment is more important. So that's why we are here. And we are here today also to enjoy the beauty and the tranquility, serenity of these green spaces. And I thank the group. Where is Liz Mazingira and your team? We thank you for the good work you've been doing with your team and your presence, with the Wangari Maathai Foundation and the members of your consortium. We don't take for granted your presence here and the contribution you've made. I thank you all, and because I said I'm not the chief guest, I am the host, I welcome you once again to this site and invite the chief guest to educate us, tell us about, we may take it for granted. What is ozone layer? What is ozone layer? And it is important because we are not just speaking to us gathered here today. We are speaking to those millions out there, but we are also speaking to those that have not yet been born. What is ozone layer? Why is it so important? What is the connection between ozone layer and climate change and global warming? What are the substances that deplete ozone layer? What are the consequences? What are our obligations as individuals, as groups, as government, so on and so forth? And what is our shared responsibility? There is no better person to speak to this, deliver this as a chief guest than my friend, 9-year-old Eileen, who has been in every function across the country, tree planting, environmental function, and has planted to date over 1,500 trees. I don't know whether any one of you can match that record. Chief guest, welcome and educate us. And thank you. And please bear with her because she'll take some time, so she will read and try and chief guest. So, Rudisha,